friends. Welcome back to another episode of All the Things I Wish I Knew. Thank you for tuning in wherever you guys are. I hope you're not laying on your bed or sitting in the bathroom at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. But if you are, then this episode is hopefully going to calm you down and try to give you some positivity to kind of reflect on. And as the title says, I want to talk about something very personal today, and something that I think would resonate with a lot of males out there that are struggling with this. And, I am approaching my 40s, so I think a lot of you that are listening are probably in your teens or in your early 20s, maybe mid 20s, 30s or so. And that's talking about childhood trauma and kind of stemming from the effects of that and making you become a playboy. And a playboy means like you kind of, in my definition or own experience, which I'll tell you guys a story in a second. It's about like just chasing girls left and right, using dating apps, not really viewing women or girls as a human being, but kind of like an object or something that like you use just to like satisfy your own desires, whether it be physically, emotionally, and then in the long term, you become numb to like women, right? Like you might become so good at like attracting women in a certain way, but it's because you become so numb that the after effects of that are like you don't even know if you have a connection or not. And at the end of the day, your trauma and your personal issues internally are like growing bigger and bigger without you even knowing. It's like a cancer. It spreads and spreads until you decide to face it. Otherwise, it's going to consume you, and then in the end, you're just going to be like nothing but just destruction, just existing in this world. So let me start off by telling everybody a story. I tell you, I guess, one of the most personal stories I think that I've experienced. Try not to get into too much details, but I think you guys kind of know and can relate to all of this. Especially if you're a male out there and you feel lonely, but you're also very good at attracting women. By all means, I'm not trying to brag that I'm good or anything like that. I think now that I'm older, I'm able to reflect on a lot of things. But let me start off by telling you a little story so you can relate to what I'm trying to talk about and the point that I'm trying to get across. So I think up until I was 21 years old, like I was just a very studious student. I went to school, I studied hard, got a good GPA, and went home. But it wasn't until one day when I went to like a party, right? And I met a lot of international students, and they were from Taiwan. And I met one of them through a class that I had taken, and she invited me over to kind of eat with her friends and just sing karaoke, just hang out, play basketball, like things that young college, guys do. And I had a really good time. I met all her friends. And it was one of those things where like, I wanted to get a girlfriend. I wanted to have someone so bad, but I didn't know why. I was so chicken, like I couldn't talk to any girls until I started talking to the girl that sat next to me in the class more and more. The same girl that invited me over to her apartment to like meet her friends, eat together and hang out. She treated me really well, and I thought that I was getting close with her. So I tried to win her over, like to chase her. Like I'd ask her to go eat. I would ask her to study with me. I would ask her to just come over to my house and meet my parents, just kind of developing a relationship with her. And I even picked up her parents from the airport that flew over from Taiwan to kind of, spend time with her and talk to her and see her. So I treated her family very well. And eventually, long story short, she agreed to be in a relationship with me. And, like at this point, we had pretty much done everything. Like I met all of her family. I took her on dates. I had her in the car watching the stars, like first base, second base, things like that. And I was so happy because I wasn't sure if I really liked this person, but I was so happy that I had a partner and that I could just rely on someone and have someone in my life. And then this is where the story takes a turn. one day she invites me to another international event where a lot of her other friends were there, and I met another friend that was really attractive and like a complete 180 of this girl. Let's just call her Kate. She's like a complete opposite of Kate, right? And this girl's name is Weenie. So Kate is a girl that I had been talking to in the very beginning and kind of like expressed my feelings to, and pretty much like was on the verge of getting into a relationship with her, being girlfriend and boyfriend officially. And then I meet Weenie. Weenie is like this laid back kind of like tomboy, easy to talk to, and right from the get go, she liked me. She told me she liked me from the beginning, and she never made me chase her, and I didn't feel like I had to chase her at all. And so I got along more with the second person, and I also all of a sudden I felt so loved. Like I felt like, wow, I have like people actually showing interest in me and liking me. And I grew up in an environment where I'll talk about this in a bit after the story, but an environment where it's very abusive, a lot of violence, emotional trauma, things like that. So coming from an environment where you don't have a love to all of a sudden being in an environment where like people are actually showing interest in you and they love you and like try to get close to you, that's like eating instant noodles for your whole life and eating once a day, and you're starving, you're underweight, until someone takes you to a restaurant and you're eating like 5-star Michelin steaks and like sushi and like the best things in the world. So that's just like how big of a contrast it is for you guys to kind of understand. And back to the story. So Weenie and I became friends and we connected online, we chatted. It was so natural. Like I really liked her, but at the same time I had already like spent so much time and invested a lot of opportunities on Kate, and Kate was on the verge of like wanting to be with me. So I'm kind of conflicted back and forth until one day I was hanging out with Weenie in her dorm room, and then Kate just randomly knocks the door and opens it and walks in and sees me sitting on Weenie's bed and talking to her, and immediately Kate shuts the door and just leaves and walks away. And I'm like freaking out internally. Like I have no idea why Weenie and Kate were friends. I didn't know they were like such close friends until that moment. And in that moment and onwards, both of them blacklisted me. Pretty much they knew that I was talking to both of them at the same time, and I was kind of like just dating two people at the same time, and I couldn't make up my mind. And this is a start of like internal trauma that I didn't even realize that I had, right? I had no idea why I did these things. I knew I was just so sad. I was crying. I called all my friends, went to their houses, and I explained like, I don't know why I did this. I'm so stupid. Why did I just like too many girls, and especially two girls at once? And why couldn't I pick one? Like, why am I like this? This is horrible. I kept questioning why I did these things, but I didn't fully understand or question where the root of the problem came from. And that's the moral of the story today is you might be doing a lot of things that people might blacklist you at, right? Like if you're a playboy and your friends are really honest and they're good people and they find out you're a playboy and you're playing like 2 to 3 girls at the same time, you're going to look really, really bad. And a lot of people are not going to like you. And that's what happened to me. But from that moment onward, I realized that I had this kind of attachment issue and kind of like abandonment issue that stemmed from childhood trauma. So taking a step back, right? Let's talk about childhood trauma for a second, and then we'll circle back with the story and talk about how I ended up facing everything and where I am today. So a lot of you guys know that, especially with Asian parents, they came to this country with nothing, and a lot of them escaped poverty, war, whether it be like escaping communism in China or like the Vietnam War in Vietnam to come to the United States, or whether it be from Taiwan to the US, whether you are from different countries in Asia, but the root of like the immigration process is the same, right? Your parents suffered to come to this country, and when they had you, or they gave birth to you and raised you, they didn't prepare enough emotionally, and they didn't face their own trauma, and now they're having their kids. So in a ways, they're numbing their own trauma without even realizing it, trying to survive in a country where English is not their first language and trying to make a living to care for you, for themselves, and for your future. And then also to just take you to school and teach you and make sure that, you don't become like a bad person. All these things they're trying to do while they're raising a child. And a lot of times they might not have the best emotional control. So they might, for example, like lose their anger or like lose their temper and just like take it out on you. Like, for example, my dad was very abusive. Like, he would beat my mom, beat me, beat my brothers. And it was not just like just a slap on the butt. This was like taking a stick, taking a bat, taking shoes, like throwing me on the ground and kicking me. I'm not talking bad about my parents or anything, but as you get older, you realize that like certain actions are caused from people's own pain, right? There's a saying that if you're hurt and you don't fix yourself, you're going to end up hurting more people, right? So hurt people hurt people. So my parents didn't really know better. So they did all these things to me and caused all this damage. And I remember the root problem that I had discovered after years of therapy and talking to like psychiatrists is that it was an experience where my dad would repeatedly punish me by beating me and then making me pack my bags into a suitcase and then driving me to the corner of the street about 5 minutes from our house and dropping me off and letting me stay there for about 5 or 10 minutes just by myself in the darkness. And he did this to kind of scare me so that I wouldn't get bad grades or I wouldn't do something wrong. Or like I remember I stole something from the grocery store one time because I really wanted to get this toy and I couldn't get it, so I stuck it in my pocket. But it was the right thing to do for him in terms of trying to correct that wrong behavior, but the way he went about it was wrong, right? So after numerous times of the same punishment where I was like abandoned in the middle of the street, I developed this abandonment emotional trauma. And growing up, I always longed for like love, right? I wanted to be loved by someone. I wanted to be close to someone. And so if someone showed little interest in me, I would like them. And I wouldn't necessarily know whether, like I was compatible with them or not, or whether like I should date them or get to know them. It's like, if you like me, I like you. And a lot of guys out there might have the same problem. And if you're listening right now, you might also have the same issue if you recognize this pattern. But sometimes you might not even recognize it until like it hits a point where like you can't control it anymore, or like it's a boiling point where like there's like an explosion, or like there's so much pressure in the rice cooker that it explodes. And that's what happened to me, which I'll talk about in another episode. But for the time being, the childhood trauma caused me to become a playboy. And keep in mind that if you're a playboy, like there's a lot of playboys in this world, right? A lot of guys take a lot of pride in like being able to chase women from different countries, different ethnicities. They're proud to date like so many girls at the same time or sleep with a lot of girls. I did all those things. And at some point I was really, really good at just like talking to women, masking up my own pain, pretending to be someone that I wasn't, and just like locking that emotional trauma of abandonment into like a little box and like throwing into like a big container and locking that up so it would not come out. But you know what? Emotional trauma and abandonment and like issues you have as a child never go away until you face them head on directly. And it took me years and years of therapy and courage to be able to get out of this loop and even make small improvements. And I'm not trying to encourage everybody on this, that are listening to this episode to like immediately go out and find a therapist, find a psychiatrist, get help or whatnot. I'm just trying to relay the message that if you feel like you're lonely and you feel like you're suffering from like abandonment or like childhood trauma and you don't know why you're doing certain things in life, like you're constantly empty or you're constantly seeking validation, you're constantly chasing women over and over and over, even though you're really good at it, but you still find yourself lonely and you can't commit to one person, look at your childhood and ask yourself, what was my childhood like? Did I suffer? Was I sad? And just take a step back and remember this episode. So come back to this from time to time and just take a listen, right? So the moral of the story and the moral of this episode is that I want to encourage everybody to kind of recognize the patterns, right? And it does get a little bit easier as you get older, because when you get older, things tend to slow down, right? You experience a lot of things in your life. You dated probably like hundreds and hundreds of women. You've done the same thing over and over. So everything starts to feel the same. And you start to question things like, is that it to this world? Is that it to my life? Like, is this all there is to offer? So if you have the courage to question these little things, eventually you will hit a point where you're going to hit a fork in the road where you're going to think, should I go face myself, or should I just continue down the same dark path that I've been going down? So this is something that I realized that had helped me face my trauma. And being a playboy is not something to brag about. It is, I mean, to be honest, it does look good if you go in the club and you're meeting like a bunch of women. And like I was in Taiwan one day and like I went to the club and I didn't really care because here I am not even giving a crap about my childhood abandonment trauma, and I'm chasing all these women, and then they're all talking to me at the same time. I'm buying them drinks. The next thing I know, a bunch of other women are coming up to me, and like the guy friends are asking me, hey, can you introduce me to your friends? You seem so popular. And it's like feeding your ego, right? But all these things become irrelevant as you get older, because you realize that at the end of the day, when all you have to offer to this world is just chasing women and being good at it, it's not enough to exist, and you're going to be unhappy in your heart. So I'm not trying to stop all of you all from becoming a playboy, but I want you to be aware that being a playboy stems from loneliness, and loneliness stems from a bad experience you had as a child. And in certain people's childhood, they might experience trauma or abandonment or like depression, anxiety. All these things are all intertwined with each other. So take a step back, have a little courage, talk to your friends about it, write things down in a journal, which I have been doing till this day. I have a big journal that I write in, not every day, but whenever I feel frustrated. Writing down all your thoughts helps you put all your feelings out on paper. And when you try to translate your feelings, it forces you in a way to kind of face them. And a lot of people don't really face themselves or face their feelings because either they're too scared, they don't want to be hurt, or they just don't want to acknowledge the fact that they have something wrong with them. But I'm telling you, through experience and through our journey together here on this channel, you're going to have the courage to face yourself slowly, gradually. And I'm here to encourage you all step by step, slowly. It doesn't have to happen today or tomorrow or next week, but eventually it should happen slowly at your own pace. So I encourage everybody, on this channel, whether you're new or you're just starting to tuning in, I'm going to pull a lot from my life experience, and I've had a lot of darkness that I've been through, from like suicide attempts to like my own family's suicide attempts to abandonment to like blacklisting my family to cops coming to our house to like family members going to jail. A lot of things stem from childhood trauma, and I'm not just talking like I know everything, because I don't. I'm just talking from genuine life experience, and I hope to help even one person out there in this world. If I can, I'm super grateful. So with that being said, we touched on a lot of very detailed topics today, but I hope you all learned something from this. And it's okay to be a playboy. There's going to be one girl out there eventually that's going to see through you, and one day she's going to care for you, and she's going to ask you, what's wrong? Are you okay? She's not going to use the fact that you're a playboy against you, because if she really cares about you, she sees the good in you, and she's going to separate the fact that you're doing all these bad things like chasing a lot of girls, that's separate from the true you that's existing in your heart. So if you ever meet a girl like that, cherish her, because it's so hard for someone to accept you and accept your flaws. Because a lot of times, 95% of the times, I can tell you, girls, if you treat them wrong or you're a playboy and you play them, they're going to block you, they're going to blacklist you and just run away. So being a playboy is something that I'm not too proud of, but looking back, it's taught me so many things, and I hope to use these life experiences to help you all as you're listening and tuning into this channel. And I hope you stay and subscribe, because there's so many things that I want to talk about to help you all in your lives as you continue to walk down this journey, because nobody lives forever. And if one person's experience can help someone else, the world's going to be a better place one day. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoy this episode. Wherever you're listening from, have a great night. I hope you all Have a peaceful day, have happiness and good health. So this is Van. I'm tuning out from all the things I wish I knew. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for listening.